Hey guys, it's Luca with Learning MTG, and today I'm going to do another video. Today I'm going to talk about another thing I think about a lot, which are heuristics. Um, so, just before I get into this video, I think a lot of my videos are like very much talking about building blocks. Like these are the building blocks that I use in my thought process, and I don't think any of this stuff's like very easily applicable. If you think about the last video I made, I talked about dynamics. So this is another kind of like big picture, like big concepts, uh, not necessarily easy to apply into the problems you face, but I think in the long run, like this is like the most powerful stuff you can learn and think about. So that's why I choose to talk about these things. It's also just the way that I think. So I don't really apply a model to like a fixed model to any of the decisions that I make. I don't like plug things into a formula or even do things you might typically think of like support and resistance or dollar cost average or any of these like tried and true methods. I don't really use those. I think more from like a very basic level. Maybe I think in engineering people talk about like first principles. So to me, like this is maybe more of like a first principles type idea. Um, and then I use my intuition a lot, which some people probably think is nonsense, right? Because you can't you can't tie it down. You can't be consistent about it. You can't explain intuition logically. But anyways, that's kind of my method. Is I think about these sort of more deeper concepts, and then I use my intuition. So today I'm going to talk about heuristics. So for those who don't know what heuristics means, heuristics basically are like rules of thumb. They're like shortcuts. We kind of need to use them in a sense in order to solve problems that we face over and over that are kind of a similar or repetitive nature. So here's an example of a heuristic I use. So when I list cards on TCG Player, what I do is I count down 5 cards. So if one person's got 2 copies listed, the next person has one, the next person has 2 copies listed. Then after the 5th person, I'll price my card at whatever the next price is, so that when someone looks up that card at that grade, mine will be the sixth lowest price. So basically, the reason I do this is because I've noticed like if I just price it the lowest, like if I bid lower than the lowest seller, I'm usually kind of cutting myself short, and it'll sell right away. But I could have made more if I waited. And yeah, that's just kind of the sweet spot that I've found, right around the 6th position. So that's a heuristic. That's a pattern I use. Um, why do I do that? So okay, if I'm listing 100 cards, I don't have to do a deep analysis for each specific card and think of how I want to price each card. I just have my rule, and then according to my rule, I price my card. So heuristics is basically it's like shortcuts. You can use them in Magic, right? So maybe in Magic, a heuristic you have is I want to spend all my mana every turn if possible. So on turn 3, if you're choosing between a 2 mana spell and a 3 mana spell, you'll just use your 3 mana spell. And these things they tend to be correct, and they tend to be useful. But I think first of all, if we're just looking at our own decisions, we definitely want to realize, okay, when do we break these rules of thumb? I read a book by Josh Waitzkin. He was like a grandmaster chess player, and he wrote a book about learning. And one of the things he talks about is these sorts of, you learn these rules of thumb. That's kind of like step one when you're mastering something. Step two is you kind of find the exceptions. When do you break that rule? Okay, yeah, maybe you do want to play your 3 mana spell on turn 3, except in the situation where you really need to kill their creature, for example. And so you play your 2 mana removal spell. So you find exceptions to your rules of thumb, and then it keeps on going, right? That's like step 2. Step 3 is what are the exceptions to the exceptions, right? And it kind of goes on endlessly. So I guess one of the big ideas that I think about with heuristics is like you need to know when to break your heuristics if you're using them yourself, or when to update them, right? So like with my heuristic that I use for listing cards in TCG Player, I keep track of it. Is it working? Is it not working? Are my cards selling too fast? Are they selling too slow? And then I kind of modulate based on how that's going. I think that's really important, and that kind of brings me to the next thing. Like, one of the big reasons I use this concept of heuristics is because to me it explains how markets act. Why do people, price something at a certain level? Why is something worth this much versus that much? Why do certain institutions invest in this? Why do certain Magic players invest in these cards but not invest in those cards? And basically, people use heuristics. And most people are not very careful about their heuristics, right? So, you can find a person and they made a bunch of money doing X, Y, Z, and they'll keep doing X, Y, Z over and over and over because they've kind of ingrained it in their mind that this is how they make money. And in fact, when it stops working, they'll still keep doing it, right? So that's kind of the big idea here. And this is how, in my opinion, you can make a lot of money in investing, is when you find other people that are following an old, outdated heuristic, and you trade against them, right? So for many years or months or whatever, you'll find people and they've made money on a particular trade. They'll keep making that trade, and then you'll trade against them. When it stops working for them, and then you'll kind of profit off of their mistake. So that's pretty much the gist of the topic. People use heuristics. There's no getting around heuristics because we can't process every little decision in a deep way. But the important thing to know is some people are very slow in adapting their heuristics. You don't want to be one of those people, and you want to trade against the people that are slow. And you want to really try to understand, okay, why are people making bad decisions? I think you always want to know who you're trading against, right? If I'm making money on a trade, why am I making money on a trade? If I expect to make money in this investment, why is that so? And pretty much you'll inevitably come to the conclusion that, okay, if I'm going to make money in this investment, it's because I see something that other people don't. And usually it's going to come down to one of these things. It's like they've got patterns of mind that no longer work, are no longer relevant in the new world order, etc. So that's all I really wanted to talk about for this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.